It starts with an itch and a tingle, and then it builds and expands. And suddenly, all at once, my legs won't let me stand. I scratch till my fingers go numb.
Hello and welcome to Suicide Sucks. We are here in the camper van in the best scenery I have ever been in. I am not kidding you. You will have to check the photos out. We are in the middle of nowhere at the back of Millhouse and it is just phenomenal. I've told my guest, who's I'll introduce you to in a minute, that I'm not leaving. That's it. The camper van is parked up. That's it. But yeah, so welcome to the podcast. And we're here to discuss all things suicide. We're not ashamed. We don't feel guilty about it. That's how it is. Hence the title. So my next guest, Emma, there was a time when she didn't think she'd make it through. And that's not because she actually wanted to die, but because she thought it was the kindest thing for everyone else. She now feels like she's made it through. Medication helped her breathe. Therapy helped her heal, and love helped her fight. And in today's episode, we're talking about survival, we're talking about hope, and what happens when you push through your darkest days. So you need to know that if you're in the dark, there's light ahead. And Emma is living proof of that. So welcome to the podcast, Emma.
Thank you very much.
It's lovely to have you here. We are still in the camper van, even though it's a gorgeous day outside, but, you know.
It's okay, I'm ginger again. So it's all right. You give me a rest.
Well, we can still see the sunshine, so that's all right. Okay, so we always start with the same question on the podcast, and that is if you can share with us one of the darkest days that comes to mind.
So the main one, which was the day when I actually committed to my attempt, I'd been laid in bed and I felt like such a burden to everybody. And I rationalised that without me here, everybody else could move on with their lives. And that I was the problem that everybody was tied to. I felt like a lead weight that was stuck around everybody's ankles, and naturally they wanted to support me, but I felt bad for taking the time out of their lives, and I didn't think that I was worthy of that time. So I think that day, now looking back, was the worst, because I normalised that me not being here was okay, and that the pain was less for my family to lose me than it was to help me through.
Because you felt such a burden.
Because I just felt like I had nothing left positive to give anybody. So why am I sapping happiness and energy and that it just consumes every bit of you, and I think when a big thing with me was not sleeping, so that directly affects my mental health. I've learned that since. That's one of my main triggers. But because I wasn't sleeping and the deprivation of that, and I just wanted it to stop. I just wanted it to give me a break. It wasn't that I wanted to die as such. I just didn't want to feel like that anymore. And that was the only way that made sense. Because there was, I felt like I'd banged on the door of the GP. I'd been put on the waiting list, which were 2 years long. You know, everything I felt like I needed when I was in the dark hole was 2 years away. So I couldn't imagine living 24 hours, never mind 2 years. So that I just felt so defeated. And I just thought, well, I can't drag this out for my family to go through this for the next 2 years.
I think a lot of our listeners will totally resonate with that that whole concept of when you do actually reach out, then to be told
That's when
this
you need
huge
it.
weight.
Yeah. Me phoning the doctors to say, I don't want to be here anymore, that was the hardest thing that I've ever done. And I thought that at that point, somebody would step in and go, right, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. This is how we're going to support you.
Yeah, we're taking it out of your control.
Yeah. So I finally like had an emotional release because I'd gone, bleh, you know, with my truth. And I expected like people to rally, medical professionals. And then when they didn't, it was just the hopelessness was, I couldn't move beyond it. That was it. That was my shot. I fired my shot, it missed, and that's me done, because I can't keep going on.
And then even for the people that you've shared with, like if you've shared with family members and things, you know, again, that's like, it's like quadrupled the frustrations as well, isn't it? Because then your loved ones are also thinking, what the hell? Why isn't something happening?
Yeah. And I think the day that I actually tried to take my life, obviously I was rushed into hospital. I was kept in under observations and everything else. I then expected, again, another wave of help to come because of the seriousness of what I'd done, you know, and there was nothing. I didn't get a phone call from the GP. I didn't get any support. There was nobody ever mentioned it after that point. No one. And it's only through me being honest. So like when I've run up for life insurance and things like that, they say, have you ever had a suicide attempt? Yes, I have. Okay, my bill now skyrockets because I was honest about it.
Oh my word.
So even then, it's, you know, there is a really negative stigma that you carry forward because it's part of my life, it's part of my story, and I will never deny it. And it's a big part because it was a big part that changed fundamentally who I was and who I wanted to become afterwards. And I think for me, I regret being left in that hole, but I don't regret the journey because I feel like the journey has brought me to a much more beautiful space. Mm-hmm. And I think I never envisaged that all those years ago that I could make it a day, never mind to now. And it has changed my entire trajectory of my life because I've just dedicated it to helping people. And the soul food that I now get from that is massive. And I think that's a big, big, big thing.
So tell me about when this attempt was. How old were you, and what do you believe to be the contributing factors for you to what led you to that specific point where you thought, right, no more?
So the lack of support, big one. I had a major upset within my family. I found out that my fiancé of 7 years had been having an affair behind my back with my sister. I'd lost my dad, and so the kingpin of the family passed away, which kind of left us all floating in the ethos, trying to hold it together. Then my best friend, who was my sister, did what she did, and everything that mattered to me had gone. I then broke my back. I broke my back before I found out, because I was laid up in bed when it was going on. So I broke my back, and being laid up medically, I thought I was going insane because I wasn't seeing people, there was no conversations happening, I was kind of just left. So I genuinely started to really retreat into my own head, and I was overanalyzing every single conversation with people. You know, if somebody didn't say bye to me when I had a conversation on the phone. I was then thinking, oh my God, I must have done something. I must have upset this person. And at that point, I started to catastrophize. So I was blowing everything well out of proportion. I didn't realise that's what I was doing, but that is what I was doing. And there's almost like a level of self-sabotage that sort of kicks in, because you're so frightened of being abandoned by these people that you start to naturally push them away.
Yes. Sorry, I was just getting up to check if the gas was off.
No, well, I hope so.
It is off, yes. Sorry.
No,
We're not
you're
going to
right.
gas ourselves, Christ.
Thank you. So yeah, it was just a culmination of things that you could have never predicted. You know, not one of those things. One of them would have been tough enough.
Yeah.
All of them. I remember when the first day that I went for therapy, and I told her sort of what had happened, and I just remember this therapist's face, and she was sort of clung to the edge of her seat and her mouth was gaping, and she was like, oh my God, no wonder you felt like that. And that was really validating.
Oh, God, it's one of the key things,
Because
isn't it?
somebody said to me that the way I'd been feeling, there was no, of course I would feel like that, you know. And I think I diminished myself and thought, well, you know, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I actually, and I'm really embarrassed to say this now, but I need to own it, I believed that depression was something that the GPs made up when they couldn't be bothered to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Right? So I was that person. And boy, did that bite me in the backside, because I learned firsthand what depression looks like. But that mentality of that's not a real thing was so damaging, because I didn't see what was happening until it was way too late. And again, you know, being told by people, you'll be fine, you're all right, you know, you're made of tough stuff. All of these sort of phrases that people chuck at you, and then you internalise that, and you're like, no, I'll be fine. That becomes your internal monologue. So you're repeating those damaging things to yourself, and that doesn't allow any wellness. So there's no space in that to be able to go, okay, I'm not well, I need support, and how do I get there?
And it's even, like you've just said about being validated, it's even acknowledging and being given permission to acknowledge that, oh shit, yeah, I have had a really rough ride.
Massively.
So,
Massively.
Of course.
She said, I don't think I could have got through that. And that, because I'd minimised it so much, that was like, oh, wow. So I've done all right then, because I'm still alive. I'm very unwell, but I'm still alive. And
how did you break your back?
I used to produce horses professionally, and I got on a tricky horse, and I broke my back. I didn't realise I'd done it until 6 months later. So then, obviously, the recovery of it was tricky, because they couldn't just go in and fix it. So I had to not mobilise and just hope for the best.
Oh my! So for 6 months you were carrying on normally?
Yeah, and they said to me, if you'd have sneezed, tripped, fall, any minor thing, you could have been paralysed from the waist down. And I was like, oh wow. But the good thing is, and I say this quite with a bit of humour, because I didn't know I'd done it riding, I've never had any negative association.
Right.
So there's never been a day when I go scared to get back on.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that saved me. So thank goodness that I didn't have that. So, but yeah.
I mean, there must be elements of PTSD from that, I imagine.
Hugely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The PTSD ran throughout all of it. And that's what I was diagnosed with. Was it acute PTSD? There was a
Or is
word.
it complex?
Complex PTSD and acute and something else, depression, anxiety. So there was a whole host of things that eventually I was diagnosed with.
So if I take you back to the attempt,
Yep.
so you were taken into hospital,
Yep.
and basically not given any help
No.
until when did you finally?
2 years
I mean,
later.
did I mean, I could imagine somebody attempting again after that.
So, again, when I say to you that my horses were my saviour, they really were. They were the only thing that made me get up every day, because they couldn't feed themselves, they couldn't put water in for themselves. So even though I used to avoid people, so I found myself going up at like 7, 8 o'clock at night when it was dark, or 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want any interaction with humans, but my horses forced me to interact.
Yeah.
And I think having that non-judgmental, silent acceptance and warmth and deeper connection was that thing that got me through. It really, it was the only thing that kept me stable. So even if some days I was faking it, which 100% I was, it didn't matter, because on the darkest days when I really didn't want to leave, there was still a reason to get up, and that stopped me from locking myself away, because I would have done. I would have just locked myself in a room and withered away. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want this to carry on. I didn't see any way of fixing it, which when you get to that point, there really is no other option.
And at that time, you obviously had. Were you married then, or
No.
No. But did you have a support network of
So
such?
I was very fortunate that I met who I'm with now, and he has been my absolute rock. And actually, it is for him that I got well, because I didn't value myself enough to do it for me anymore, but I valued him, and I knew that he deserved more than what he was receiving.
Right.
And even up to maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I always thought that he would leave me, because I just thought that what I gave him was never good enough. It was never going to be enough, because he deserved so much more. And it's only really the last few years that I've sat back and gone, do you know what? I bring some bloody good stuff to this table. I'm all right.
Exactly.
So no, it's no, he's something else.
And did you have anyone else, or was it just him?
My mum.
Right.
But obviously, initially, it was really hard for my mum, because it was my sister.
Yeah.
So the dynamics of the family had a massive shift. And I understand, you know, how hard it was for her. I don't diminish that at all. At the time I did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care. I didn't care about the other sister. You know, she could have dropped off the face of the planet and I did not care. Now we're in a good place. So
Good.
it's, you know, but my mum has always been there. And I think a big thing, because obviously my partner had to go to work, my mum had retired, she just used to come and sit. So she didn't speak, she didn't push for conversation, for answers to pointless questions. You know, there was no mindless chatter that I didn't even see the point of breathing, so why do I care about talking about tosh? That's how I felt.
And was that kind of that was after you'd made an attempt and things?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think this is a really important. I was going to ask this question about what could people have done back then to have helped.
Well, I think that's it.
And the fact that you've said, I mean, because there's the other side of it before you know somebody's struggling.
Yeah.
Then obviously you need to ask those questions. Are you feeling suicidal? Have you made a plan? You know, that's key. But at this point, when you've owned up, or it's a common fact, common knowledge.
Yeah, I did it.
That then it's like you don't want that pressure and burden of somebody, you know, hiding the knives or something,
Yeah.
or looking out for
Yeah.
you. And it's like, what do people do?
Well, she was very open. And she sat down and said to me, Emma, you're a grown woman. Do I need to remove all the medication from this house? And I think I was quite caught off guard with that, because I thought, oh God, that's a really direct question. I've just tried to commit suicide using lots of medication, and now she's just put it as blunt as that. And I sat and thought about it, and I thought, well, no, no, not right now. No, I'm all right. And you know, and I think because we had such an open then we had an honest conversation, and she said to me, well, if you get to that point again, can you please tell me so that we can, you know, sort this out? Oh, right. Yeah, of course.
Brilliant.
So there was no on eggshells. There was no bullshit. It was straight to the point. You're an adult. Do I need to do this? No. Right, okay. I'm just going to come and sit with you. Okay. And she would turn up. She would get dropped off first thing in the morning. She would stay there all day, and she would be picked up at 6, 7 o'clock at night. During that time, she was doing my washing. She was cooking meals for my family. She was bringing shopping and food. In fact, she probably mothered me more at 25 years old than she did when I was a child. But that's when I needed it.
Yeah.
And I needed it not in a way that was patronising. None of it was patronising. It was all just, this needs doing, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't get asked. She just would come in and say, right, I put a wash on. I'm going to chuck it in the tumble dryer. You know, is there anything that you want to go on the line? No, yes. So it was very minimal. It didn't require anything from me. There was no emotional requirement. I didn't have to please her.
Yeah.
I didn't have to run around and tidy up because my mum was coming over. There was no judgment. And I think that was really, really important, because she knew I was so overwhelmed in the whole situation. So I almost became crippled in the overwhelm. Like, I couldn't get off the sofa. I couldn't move because anything was just too much.
That's such good advice for anyone who might be listening, who is concerned for someone.
Yeah.
It's basically just being a presence, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
I didn't feel alone.
yeah.
And I'd felt so alone because I'd spent so much time on my own. And even though it's such a double-edged sword, because I wanted to be on my own, but I didn't.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
That's the thing.
Because if she was to have asked you,
I would have said no.
yeah, and that takes courage on the other person's side, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To just kind of bite the bullet.
Yeah.
And just say, look, I am going to come, and you know.
I didn't get an option. She got
Yeah.
a key cut and she turned up and let herself in every morning. And I would come downstairs and she was sat on the sofa, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then, I think we ate bacon and tomato sandwiches every day for maybe 3 months, because that was just something that I fancied. So every day she came with a pack of bacon and fresh tomatoes, and that's what we had.
Wow.
So it's yeah.
And then what? And then, I mean, I'd be quite happy staying like that forever.
Yeah, no, it was. And then, obviously, then I started my therapy. And again, because I was the depression isn't real person, I was the therapy's not going to help. Why talking to some randomer is ever going to fix me? It's ridiculous. And I was so against it. But the day that I accepted it in the doctors, or accepted to go onto the waiting list, she said to me very bluntly, Emma, what you've done up to this point has done nothing. You haven't got anywhere. And I thought, yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is going down. Like, if what I was doing on my own was beneficial, there would be some up, and there isn't. It's all down. And she said, what have you got to lose? Apart from the parts of yourself that you've already lost. And I'm like, okay, all right, stick me on it. So when I actually went, I was so nervous, so anxious. I was nearly sick because my mum dropped me off, and I was walking into the building and I just felt so churned up inside, and I wanted to bolt and go home. And the first day, it was like I just had verbal diarrhea, and I walked in and just went, "Bleh, this is me." And I felt like if I didn't do that, I would have never said any of it.
Yeah.
Because I'd mentally and emotionally built myself up to walk in. So I was like, just get it all out on the first day, tell her everything, and then nothing's as bad as that. So that's what I did. And I think she was really overwhelmed with how open I was, because I did own all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the bits I'd done wrong, the bit, that I thought I'd done wrong. And she thanked me. She was genuinely tearful, and she couldn't believe that I'd walked in there and had sort of embraced the session as much as what I did. And I think that was really important. I had to be ready to commit emotionally to therapy. And there is no point trying to drag anybody to therapy if they're not in that space, because it will just fall on deaf ears. They're not open, they're not receptive. So I was ready. And I was ready to be well. And I wanted it so badly. And then it was just stepping stones then.
How long did you go for?
So I was meant to get 6 sessions on the NHS, and I ended up having 12 months. So she advocated for me and put in loads of extra sessions, because it was meant to be 1 session every 2 weeks. It then got moved to 1 session a week. So she saw the carnage, and she recognised that I needed support, and I needed it very quickly.
But I mean, 6 hours, is it's not
pointless.
even a day at work, is it? It's
pointless.
How
You've only just got to a place of being comfortable in 6 hours.
Yeah.
Where you're actually receptive to what they have to say, because then you've built up a rapport. And then when they're suggesting things to you, it's not just, oh, shut up,
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy to end up in that space. But no, she was a major part in changing how I looked at me. And actually, when it was coming to an end, I was terrified of it ending. Absolutely terrified. I genuinely thought I was not going to be able to cope without her.
Yeah.
And I remember going in on my second to last session and crying hysterically, like, please don't do this, please. And she said, Emma, you've got to trust in yourself. What you've done here is unbelievable. And it was all positive reinforcement, but I still was absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
And then just after I finished, my uncle committed suicide, and then my mum's best friend committed suicide. And I remember sat waiting to be dragged back into the depths of the black hole.
Yeah.
And I was just, every day I was like, has it come? Am I there yet? And I didn't believe that I was going to be okay. And those were the 2 situations where I rode the storm. I felt the emotion. Obviously, I went into a very sad space, but I was sad. I wasn't depressed. And I think that was the first time that I realised the difference between sadness and depression, because obviously I was devastated. Me and my uncle were so close. And I was gutted that it had come to that for him. But at the same time, I wasn't being sucked back in. And I'd built up the foundations properly so that when we had the little earthquake of life, that we shook, and we did shake, but it didn't crumble. There was no falling apart, and that was the first time that I kind of pat myself on the back and thought, oh my God, is this what wellness feels like? Because at this point, usually, I would be not getting out of bed.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want to speak to people. I wouldn't be sleeping. Nope, I'm still just sad. I'm just sad.
Wow. I mean, that's like amazing, because that's
So-
like, you know, the growth in resilience and things.
It was
is
huge.
Amazing.
It was really big, and that was the first time I saw it, like physically, felt
Yeah.
it, saw it, lived it.
And what do you think it was about the therapy that you received that helped build that resilience, really?
I think she really had me looking at previous coping mechanisms, my inner child, where my anxieties came from, and how I could change my coping mechanisms moving forward. And I think that she gave me the building blocks on strategies, things to do. And even now, I'm 10, 11 years later, and I still have to practice mindfulness. There are times when I feel really overwhelmed and I can feel the anxieties building, and it may be I'm a foster carer, so it may be a big court date coming up or something that really matters that I get something right. And I have to then bring myself back and practice mindfulness techniques, practice calming myself down. And it is a daily occurrence. It's not just a button that you press and it's like, right, I'm well now, that's it, we're done, brilliant. You know, I still have to go back and re-practice the techniques and the things that we discussed, and it's changed my life. But not just my life, it's changed everyone else around me, because I'm now equipped with the tools to help my son, my partner, the kids that are in my care, you know, my friends, everything. It spans out now. And then you almost become a beacon of light to people that are in a dark space, because if you can say, this is what happened to me, this is where I ended up, this is how I got out of it, and not just that, I think I've become so used to not just signposting, but almost taking control. So when I see somebody in that situation, the doctor's already on the phone. I know charities to signpost people through to, you know, like, so I'm just like proactively, this is not happening. I'm not allowing this to happen anymore. You know, this is what we together are going to do.
Yeah.
I've put a plan together, and it's a we. And because that's what
You
I
know-
needed.
Exactly. I was going to say, and you know that because that is what you needed.
That's what I
when
needed.
you were at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I don't care whether they want it or not.
Yeah. I think when somebody's at that point, that is exactly right.
Yeah.
Somebody wants you to take control.
Yeah.
Because they've lost it, and
Yeah.
It's at that point, certainly from the people that I interview, it seems to be at that point where you've literally stopped fighting.
Yeah, you've gone. There's
Is
nothing
the moment
left.
when you can accept help.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah, because you're not going to fight that. You can't fight for yourself anymore. So you're not going to fight the help. So that's just how I deal with it now. And I always vowed that I would be the person that I felt like I needed. And that is how I lead. And it does, you know, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, we only got together because became friends because she asked me if I was a safe person. And I thought, oh God, that wording, are you a safe person? I think you are. And I signposted her through all the domestic abuse charities and basically went, I've got you. Gave her a big hug, but not just a physical hug.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Emotional hug, like, don't worry, we've got this, you
Yeah.
know. And ever since then, I think because we connected on such a level that unless you've been there, you can't understand it.
Exactly.
That we've been best friends ever since.
Yeah. And that opens up everything when somebody has stood in those shoes and can see
Yeah.
and says, almost gives the person permission
Yeah.
to talk about all of this crap that we're kind of conditioned
Offload.
not to
Yeah, yeah.
in life, you know. Like, you know, we were saying earlier about, you know, you don't show your emotions and you know, get on with it and all of this kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's and it leads me on to the whole 8 minutes mate thing. Have you seen that I've been advocating recently? It's not an idea that's come from me, but I now always have to get it in.
Yeah.
I just came across it on Facebook, and it's this bloke who says everybody needs an 8 minutes mate. And basically what that means is it's code for I'm literally at my wit's end, I'm in the darkest hole,
Yeah.
I need saving now.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to identify who they can message or call
Yeah.
and say, have you got 8 minutes?
Yeah.
And when you hear that or you read that,
You know what it is.
you basically know that this person isn't saying, you know, you got time for a chat? Or
Yeah.
like we do,
Yeah, yeah.
even when we're struggling.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, you know.
I need to pay attention to
Yeah.
this.
And it's brilliant because
Yeah.
it cuts through any crap.
We might have a
of-
sheep that's about to come in.
Oh my word.
The sheep might be just
Do you know,
about to
I thought I
join
could hear
us.
some tapping
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah. Sorry.
We are in the middle of the countryside, you see, and you'll be hearing all the tractors and things as well. It's not sound effects, this is real. And yes, I think the sheep might come in a minute, that'd be fun. But yeah, so everybody needs, anybody listening, you need to A, offer to be somebody's 8 minutes mate,
Yeah.
and have your own 8 minutes mate. And it works.
It does work.
Because I had a call about 2 weeks ago now, and I mean, it's quite scary when you get, it was actually a WhatsApp message, when you get that message, because obviously, you know, everybody knows what it means, and
Don't
it's like,
fail
oh my
now.
God, yeah, exactly.
The pressure.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you know, obviously straight away I called, and we were on the phone for an hour and 10 minutes, you know,
Yeah.
so it's nowhere near 8 minutes, obviously, it's just code.
Yeah.
But in that hour and 10 minutes, that person goes from literally wanting to end their life to coming to a better place.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously that's just the start of the journey. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's getting over that temporary feeling.
But that can be the difference between life and death.
Absolutely.
Because that choice to ask for the 8 minutes, if it's not taken up, the other choice is not even worth thinking about. And I think it's so important that we do speak about it. And especially, I mean, I said to you earlier, I'm totally at peace with my choices. And I don't think that people can talk about it unless they've achieved wellness. Mm-hmm. Because there's always an emotional tie to it. I use it as a beacon of light. So it's almost, for me, it's a badge of honour. Not that I tried to commit suicide, but where I am now, I wear it proudly. I'm not ashamed, you know,
Absolutely.
at all. It's something that you never expect to knock on your door, however it lands in your life, whether it's personally or someone that you know, a friend, you know, an uncle. But it's there, and it's very real. So I would much rather somebody message me and say, have you got 8 minutes?
Than the alternative.
Than the alternative, yeah.
Definitely.
And we all say it, I'd rather speak to you than go to your funeral.
Yeah.
Well, but when you're there, you don't think that people want to speak to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't think that there's anything that you can say to somebody or that they can say to you to make you feel any better.
And it's not necessarily about that, is
No.
it? It's just about listening.
So yeah,
and,
you
and
don't.
getting them through that temporary feeling.
It's the silent person sat in the room
Exactly.
that's not talking to me for the whole day.
Yeah.
She's not expecting anything from me, but she's just there.
Yeah.
So that if
and having
I
that,
want to,
having that phrase as well, it's like, it's even though everyone will know what it means, it's much easier to type that than Well, I mean, you would never type.
I feel suicidal.
You would never type that.
No.
It just wouldn't happen. But,
No.
you know, if you've got 8 minutes, I bet people could possibly sit there for ages going, shall I send it? Shall I send it? You know, and it's a quick click, isn't it? Job done. So, yeah, I think this is definitely... Go away and say that to everybody as well.
No, I think that it needs to be a big initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Emma now...
Yep.
Where you are now.
Yep.
Have you got I mean, you're massively passionate about being
Hugely.
a beacon of light and things.
Yeah.
Do you do anything like in a more formal or structured way to advocate?
So yes and no. So I'm a foster carer. Sometimes I deliver like open speeches at the agency about mental health, because when I first started there, I was the only person out of 20 carers that had ever experienced poor mental health. So when we were going through the training, I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. And the training just felt so rigid and textbook, and that's not real, you know. And I understand it's very hard for people, especially people that have never lived it, to write those books and that training. And so I add more of a personal touch, and I think it's I open up the questions, and I allow the space for people that have never experienced it to ask, because I think that that's really important. It's not just about people that are in a dark hole that we need to educate. It's the people around them, the people that may spot it. So I tend to do that. Part of my wellness was helping other people. So whether that be, I do a lot of charity work, a lot of community projects, foster care, that's why I changed my job role. Everything is about giving back. And a big part of me is nobody can help everybody in life, but everybody can help somebody.
Brilliant.
And like that, for me, I don't think enough people give 8 minutes back.
Yeah.
You know, and if we all just gave 8 minutes to somebody, then the world would just, it's hard enough. We don't need to make it any harder. We should all try and make somebody's day nice. So yeah, that's, for me, that's how I lead now. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I can still be an absolute cow if you want to go there, I will go there. But no, but it's changed who I am, the makeup of who I am, the foot that I lead with, everything. I try to bring everything from a positive place, from a place of love. And yeah, just want to be here.
Yeah.
I think
that's a perfect place to
Yeah.
end, Emma. The fact that, you know, you've been through everything that you've been through, but ultimately you now want to be here.
Oh, 100%.
And that's fantastic.
100%.
Thank you so much for joining me. As I say, I'm not leaving. So, you know,
I'll see you tomorrow.
I'm off grid. I've got solar panels,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I won't be any
It's
bother.
okay. You're all right. I'll come up for butties in an hour.
Yeah.
I'll bring the sheep. Oh, dear.
But thank you.
No problem.
It starts with an itch and a tingle, and then it builds and expands. And suddenly, all at once, my legs won't let me stand. I scratch till my fingers go numb.